Hi guys, I'm Karen Blacher. It's actually very late. I just got in from a gig, but I thought since my kit's a mess anyway and I have to unpack it to clean it, what better time to film a quick tutorial for you guys. So I wanted to show you this is one of my signature designs. In fact, I use it in a lot of my advertising. This is my fantasy cat design. And I was asked to do a bunch of these tonight, so I'm really kind of on the ball with it. For my fantasy cat, I'm starting with my DFX white. I'm going to be using DFX white, black, pale pink, and metallics purple. I'm going to start with my DFX white on a sponge. And just like you would for an ordinary tiger, I'm going to do a muzzle and I'm going to put a little white above the eyes. Just a touch. And I'm putting the white above the brow here, like so. And then I'm going to pick up another sponge, and you can see I've used this sponge for this particular design a number of times already tonight. I'm going to pick up on one side of the sponge my DFX pale pink, and I'm going to put that in a strip, in a V, sort of coming down the forehead, down the nose, and out under the eyes. Try not to get it in the muzzle, but you know, do what I can. You can see I've already got some purple blended in with this, which is great because that makes it look even better. On the other side of the sponge, I'm picking up my DFX Metallics Purple. This is a very strong color, so I'm going to be flipping my sponge a lot, doing a lot of blending. Starting from the sides of the muzzle here, I'm going to come down and make sort of jowls, like so. And then I'm just going to fill that out to the edge of the face. And again, frequently here, flipping my sponge over to blend the color because I don't want that strong a purple. Blending that color in all the way to the hairline. So you can see I'm applying with one side of the sponge and then pulling it out with the other side. Again, you can include the eyelids in this design if you so choose. I don't paint eyelids, especially not on small children. So I try to go for designs that are intricate enough that they don't suffer for that. There we go. So we've got a nice blended pink and purple base here. Then I'm going to pick up a round brush. I'm going to go with a number 4. And my DFX black. For the nose, actually, it's easier to do a 6, but since I've got the 4 in my hand, I'll do the nose with the 4 too. For the nose, I just do a V. You press and pull it up. You got to press pretty hard if you're using a 4, because ideally you should be using a bigger brush. And then you just fill in a little in the middle there. Okay. Bring a line down from the nose to the mouth. For the sides of the muzzle, you go thin, fat, thin. Bring it down to the corner of the mouth. So you increase the pressure on the brush coming down and then release again. And then I'm going to flick in, now this would be a lot more even if I were doing it on somebody else. Then I'm going to flick in whiskers on either side. 2 or 3. Like so. Now I'm going to do my stripes. For my fantasy cat, I like to do a sort of elongated teardrop stripes on the forehead. So I start with the circle and kind of bring it down in a shaky teardrop, sort of a V shape. I'll do the next one with the tier part of it at the bottom. Bring it up. I alternate them because I don't want it to be symmetrical. I'll also put in a couple of little V's, thin, fat, thin, on the bridge of the nose. And I'll put in some leopard spots coming up where I have the white highlights here. That's thin, fat, thin, like a letter C, pointing towards the focal point of the design. On the cheeks, I'll do a V, thin, also shaky, fat, thin, like so, with a teardrop in the middle of it. Same thing on the other side. And if you feel like you have more space, I sometimes toss in another shaky teardrop behind it. And then just under the eyebrow here, I'll also take my black and run a line out and then back into the corner of the eye. Alright, now I'm going to take my DFX white. We're just about done with this. I just pick up my DFX white. I'm going to add a couple of extra details to really make this pop. First, I'm going to put white dots in all the stripes. This is time consuming, but it really makes the design pop and really makes it a fantasy tiger. Okay, and then I also take a touch of white and I'm going to just put a little bit, oops, under the black on the eyes, also leading into the corner. And last but not least, I'm going to do a couple of fangs. I used to do them on the lips, but now because that wears off so quickly, I prefer to do them a little bit off to the side of the muzzle, like so. Symmetrical would be better. But there you have it. That's my fantasy tiger, and I do generally finish this off, as I do everything, with a little glitter. For this one, I like to place the glitter kind of along the cheekbones here, across the nose, and a little bit between the stripes on the forehead. I try to avoid putting it in the stripes because I'm usually doing this very quickly, the dots are still wet, and I wind up smudging the design. So I'm trying to avoid that. And there you go. That is my fantasy tiger. And of course at the end of this I'm going to put up actually the image that I use in my advertising, which is of my beautiful sister modeling this design and my son modeling a tiger cub mask. So I'll toss that up at the end here. As always, hope you enjoyed it. Hope you can use it. More tutorials coming soon. Thanks.